we're rolling, guys. Listen, I have Harri here. We're going to dive straight in. Me and Harri were just talking about it. Harri's going to give us an update as much as he can without getting put in the jail over there in Dubai. So tell us a little bit about what's going on. Let's tell us what you do over in Dubai, and tell us like what's currently happening there.
Yeah, man. Well, firstly, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to get started with this.
Yeah, man.
It's going to be like the old days of coaching, me on the receiving end of your coaching. But yeah, like I run my business Mindset X, which is mindset and high performance coaching company. I now have a business partner where we're coaching people together.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So that's actually quite recent. That happened this year. So we'll get into that because I think that's an interesting
thing. I'd love to. I'm really interested in partnerships and stuff like that, and how they work and sometimes don't, and the luck, I think, of the draw sometimes. So yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, we'll get into that for sure, and I'll tell you why we should get into that is because what I realized is I hit that kind of ceiling with myself. Now there was two different routes for me to go, and I took the route of partnership, right? And we'll dive into that. But yeah, man, like Dubai is an amazing place for business. It's serving every area of my life at the moment, apart from I guess the current situation, which is a little bit unsettling with the war. But all in all, it's an amazing place to be and to be running a business as well. But it's not.
Is that the way people are framing it over there? Like you just said, they're like with the war. Is that actually how they're framing it? Like that there is actually. I know this might sound a stupid question, but like, is that the energy? Is that the discussion? Does it feel like there's an actual war going on?
I mean, I'm going to the gym every day. I'm playing paddle every day. I'm like going on walks. So I think no, because people are living their life. Saying that, the first 2 or 3 days where it was happening, it was scary. And I think if anyone sits here and says that they were completely chill on that first day and that first night, because what happened was debris was falling from the interceptions. For anyone that doesn't know, what we are just underneath, and we are within the region of where Iran are attacking US bases, right? So me personally, next to where my villa, we have a US, or it's a military base, right? So Iran are attacking that, which is near where I live. And they're also attacking other bases within the region, as well as places in Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi, and other places like that. So they're not attacking the residents, but they're attacking places nearby residents. Now, what the UAE are doing is defending that by intercepting the missiles. And then what's happening is the debris is falling from the missiles that are being intercepted in the air. And the UAE leadership are doing an incredible job of intercepting that. Like, if you look at the stats, it's insane. But that's obviously going to cause collateral damage. And there has been a few things that have happened, a few deaths, a few injuries as a result of the falling debris. So it is relatively scary, but the chances are so low that you actually just like, well, if it happens, it happens, So
you got a missus?
I do, yeah.
How is she? Is she as calm as you are, or is she a little bit less calm, or what's happening there?
A little bit less calm. She's a little bit less calm. She was worried on the first few days, but after that, it's been okay for both of us, to be honest.
I was having a chat with my mum, and she was talking about that. She wasn't encouraging. Like I said a while back that I wanted to go and visit Israel, and this was obviously before what's happening now, but after October the 7th. And she's like, wasn't massively sort of encouraging sort of thing. And I was like, look, it's just when I was growing up, if you went to London, like people were planting bombs there. Like there was bombs in London. I know it seems like a million miles away from England for the last 20 years. And she was traveling through Vietnam and Cambodia and could hear the war in, like, especially when she was up high at one point. She said it's quite a well-known spot in Cambodia or Vietnam, I can't remember. And she's like, because you can see for ages, you can like hear it and see it in the foreground. And so I was sort of like, I don't know what you're talking about, Mother. Like, you were traveling through war zones, but I think we're so distant from that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so when I went to the first time I went to Ukraine, they had sort of been at war for like 5 years. And I hardly just no one really talked about it. One girl I went out with was big on it because the amount of people that died, but I just think we're so far away from it. I don't know. what do you think is, might be a big question, and I don't know if we're talking global politics, but what do you think is going to happen?
Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen. I think my the way that I've taken this is that we're so insignificant and we're just puppets on a string. So just focus on yourself, focus on your life, focus on your business, and whatever happens, happens. And if like a lot of my friends and a lot of people have left the country, and we actually planned a trip, but it we planned a trip that got cancelled halfway. We bought the tickets and everything before, and then it got cancelled. So we were going to rebook because a lot of people were kind of doing that and then going away. But we just decided not to rebook because it was so ambiguous with flights being cancelled and whether you're going to get stuck. And I don't want to be away from my dog. So I'm just like, look, if it gets really bad and we do feel like we're in danger, I'm just going to get in my Jeep, go down to the get my dog in the Jeep, and obviously my girlfriend as well, and drive into the desert. Yeah, don't forget her. Well, maybe I will. But nah, drive into the desert and just get lost somewhere. Maybe drive to Oman or whatever. But like, what can you do? Right? I'm not going to sit here feeling sorry for myself because we're very lucky to be here. Like, there's people in, like, I don't know if you've seen the other places in the Middle East at the moment, but they've got it worse. Lebanon right now is a bit of a crazy place, and a lot of the people that I know here are Lebanese, and they've got families in Lebanon, so they're pretty worried about them. They're not even worried about themselves.
I mean,
So
I guess they've been used to it for the last 30 years, right?
yeah,
Do you have a lot of clients locally?
most of my clients are local, as in not local Emirati, but they are living here. Yes.
Do in-person coaching with them? Tell us what you're up to these days then.
Yeah, man.
Just, you've obviously, well, I know that you did anyway. You've done a lot of work to remain calm. I'm sure you're doing this with your clients as well, whether they're panicking or not. Like, what's the journey over the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years then?
Yeah, man. Well, as you know, I was running my business online coaching and focusing primarily on health and behavior change, as you guys helped me a lot to make that transition. And I got fascinated by mindset, psychology, behavior change, but more so on the psychological side of things. And I leaned into that and I actually changed the entire business. I changed the offering, I changed everything about what I was doing over the 5 years. And what I got really interested in is coaching these high level leaders, CEOs and entrepreneurs, founders on like everything, but not scattered everything from the place of their sense of self and their identity and their beliefs and their behaviors. And it's like drawing those things out from a very deep place and then helping them improve in their relationships as a leader, as a CEO, in their health, and be more consistent with their habits. So it was very fluffy for a long time. And I think that's what really halted my growth from being pretty
When you say fluffy, do you mean the description of what it is, or what do you mean fluffy?
mindset's a fluffy word.
I know, I agree, by the way. Yeah.
It's a fluffy word, and it gets very lost with people who think like, well, people think mindset is like David Goggins sort of stuff, and it's like, yeah, just go harder, just keep working, keep fighting.
Or I would also say that the other end of the scale is like they think it's cheerleading.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So that it's like, yeah, it's either the David Goggins or they think it's like this woo-woo spiritual kind of whatever, fluffy stuff, right? And there's this middle place, which is actually, I guess, integrating both of those things and drawing out the best version of yourself. So to kind of fast forward through that journey of finding my message, finding my voice, and discovering what I actually found really interesting, which is mindset, psychology, mental performance, leadership, entrepreneurship, and spirituality. I'm now coaching CEOs, lots of founders, probably primarily founders, on a one-to-one basis. I now have the group coaching platform with my business partner, and I also coach companies in person. I do seminars and workshops, and I work with a few companies on a monthly basis.
If you had looked at what you're doing now 7 years ago, what would you be thinking? Because that takes a lot of courage to do shit like that, right?
Well, yeah,
Like, I mean, I don't know. I think sometimes I'll give it context. When you coach people that are like 20 times, 50 times as successful as you, that's always a bit of a challenge. When you put yourself out there to do that, and by the way, I think it's a really hard move to go from more fitness behavior change coaching to mindset because of that fluff, because it's not clear. It takes a lot of courage. And I think a lot of people try it and actually don't make it work.
100%. 100%. I think most people that do make that shift fuck it up.
So how did you not? And tell me again the question of like, have you surprised yourself?
Yes.
Go on.
The reality is that when I met you, I was an insecure little boy, and of course I'm still on that journey of like not regaining, I don't like that word, but like realizing my own ability and realizing my own confidence. But I've grown so, like, people who knew me in that phase, kind of when I was like early 20s, different person. I mean, I feel different, but I still obviously feel like the same person, but other people see me completely different, right? Because I've overcome those barriers that I set on myself, the narratives that I was living in my own head, the limitations that I'd set on myself, like I'm not a confident person, or I could never be a public speaker. I found out what I wanted to do was not just be an online coach. Now, that's nothing against online coaches, because you can probably make more money being an online coach than you can if you wanted to do other stuff, right? Because you're way more focused, it's way more scalable. However, I didn't want to just be in my own office and coaching people online. I wanted to get in front of people. I wanted to speak in front of audiences. I wanted to go into my client's office and actually coach them in person. But I had this relentless fear and this pervasive fear of perhaps rejection. Whatever it was like public speaking was my biggest fear. And if I wanted to achieve my dreams, the obstacle is the way, right? I had to just lean into that fear and figure out how to overcome it. And that's what I did.
How do you do that? How does one go about that?
Firstly,
I guess if someone's watching this, Harry, like for context again, like I think that why I wanted to chat to you specifically, and there's a few other guys as well, is I think that there is often a journey that some people end up wanting to go on. Like they get a taste for just a little bit of an insight. Like they get a little bit like, okay, this is more complex than I thought. Like stop eating the donut, and then the person doesn't stop eating the donut, and you're like, what the fuck's the matter with them? I don't eat donuts. And then eventually you just sort of get it. I mean, this is what happened to me as well. So like that how does someone do that from your perspective of someone who has? Because it's easy just to say these words, but like what kind of work have you done then?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll get onto the actual work, like in terms of the practices. But I think the first thing that I would say is that I realized what my actual goals were, like my actual vision that I had for myself. Now I'm still playing that out. I'm still fleshing that out, and I think you're fleshing that out until the day you die, right? If you achieve your potential wasn't set high enough, or you couldn't see past that level. So the vision I've got for myself is ever growing and ever changing. But what I realized at that time, like I said, was I didn't want to be sat behind my laptop all the time. I wanted to also be in front of people. So, okay, cool. That's the goal. That's what really like was compelling me at that time. So the first step is like, do you have a compelling vision that is going to get you moving in the right direction? Now, I realized that was my compelling vision, but then I realized there was something in the way of that vision. There was something in the way of the goal. Okay, so what is that thing in the way? It's nothing external. Of course, I could have said, oh yeah, but I don't have the opportunities like other people do. I don't have the money to I don't know, acquire new clients or put into ads or whatever it is, or I don't have the resources or the network. Bullshit, right? The only limitations that we have really are the ones that we place on ourselves. So I found my own limitation, which was the fear of public speaking. Now, as you know, like I personally believe that every fear or insecurity is some form of not feeling enough, right? Not having like that whole sense of self and self-worth. So for me, that was manifested in public speaking and maybe social situations. So I knew that that was the thing, that if I can remove that barrier, then I can get to my goal. No matter how hard I work, I'm not going to get past that barrier, or I'm not going to reach my goal if I don't remove the barrier. So that's what I did. And I said to myself, okay, when I moved back to, I've lived in Dubai twice, two different periods of my life. When I moved back to Dubai, about 2 years after I was working with you, and I said to myself, when I landed, I was like, I'm going to speak in front of 100 people this year. I've never done a public talk before in my life, apart from at uni where I was traumatized. That was when I first realized I have a fear of public speaking. So I said to myself, I'm going to speak in front of 100 people. And about 6 months later, I got an opportunity to speak to PwC and the partners of PwC in the Middle East. And that was my first ever.
How did you feel before? Like a few minutes leading up to it?
Few minutes leading up to it, I was calm. And I'll tell you why I was calm. When I got the opportunity, I spoke to this guy and he was really interested in what I do. And then we had a few conversations and then he was like, look, Harry, I've spoken to a few of the other partners. I'd love to have you, invite you along to come and do a 2.5 hour presentation to our partners for our strategy day. And he said, just let me know your rates and send me over your proposal and then we'll take a look at it and we'll confirm. And in that moment, I was like, fuck yes, like, let's go. And then literally I walked away from that, said bye to him. And then my heart starts pounding. And I'm like, oh shit, what have I done? Like, what the fuck have I done? I can't do this. Who am I to go and talk in front of these people? I can never be someone who stands in front of them confidently and communicate well. And then I was like, okay, there's some work I've got to do. And it was like 2 or 3 weeks. And then I hired a hypnotherapist. So I did NLP a year before that. I did NLP, the mentorship. Do you know what NLP is?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I did both practitioner and master prac. So a woman I met on that course, she's like focused on hypnotherapy. So I hired her, did a few online hypnotherapy sessions. I went to the location of where I was doing this talk. Funnily enough, it was right in front of where I lived. It was in a hotel called St. Regis on the Palm, and I lived on the Palm. Okay, so I said every day I went out into the swimming pool and I could see this building. If anyone's been to Dubai and you've been on the Palm, it's the massive building right in the middle. That's where I was doing the talk. So my swimming pool, I could look right at this building, and I visualized myself in that building every single day. And I also went to the location, stood on the stage, and did this grounding practice. I journaled every day. I literally like immersed my life into this one talk because I was that scared of what was going to happen. My business went to shit during that period as well. Like I lost all focus on like clients and I was just so focused on this one thing. It like took over my entire being. And then I did it and I was completely fine. And I smashed it.
I don't know if I've told you this before, but like I massive. Do you know what was interesting? I find it when I'm not saying this is your experience, but when things are really out of proportion, I'm really curious about that. When I went to university, this is going to sound strange, but 2 things. When I went to university, we'd have lectures in front of like 200 people, maybe 150, however big it was. Like it was quite a big auditorium. No one really spoke. I was more than happy to speak. I'd be like, yeah, put my hand up. I'd engage. I remember one time someone was saying something, and this was not how people engaged. And I then put my hand up and started disagreeing with this person. And then everyone was like, this is a bit weird. Like, I don't know. I think maybe it wasn't the way people were doing it. What I found really interesting is then afterwards we would have little an hour. I can't remember what they were called. One was a lecture and one was kind of like a workshop, but it was like 20 people in the room. And then I'd go into those rooms and then you would be asked to stand up and speak to everyone. And that's the thing I couldn't do. Whereas when I sat down, I don't know why it was. I kind of do, but when I sat down, I could just talk. Like as soon as I felt like there was, I don't think it was pressure. I don't know exactly what I would frame it, but I'd stand up and I'd shit myself. And then I had to do a presentation in front of like 20 people, but it was prepared. Yeah, and I was like a fucking menopausal woman in the toilets before doing it. Like, I mean it. Like, I was like hot sweats. I couldn't brain fog. And I was like, this is really weird. Like, it was so out of proportion. And then I did KPI, which is Daniel Priestley's course. I was like, right, I'm going to make sure that I speak because I need to stop being so, stop being so, I'm not going to sound the podcast. People won't like it. And then I was like, and the first day I would speak and I was really quite chuffed in myself. And again, I know this sounds really ridiculous. It sounds a bit ridiculous to me now, but certainly for people that don't have this fear, it's just like, what's the matter with you? And then the first day I would put my hand up. And then interestingly, the second day, no one could hear. So they brought a microphone in. And as soon as the microphone was introduced, so when you wanted to speak, you had to put your hand up and they would bring a microphone to the person who's speaking. And then you had to hold. And I didn't speak for the next 5 months. And I was like, that's just mental. And then me and Phil had a book launch. And I was like, it sort of dawned on me one day as we were just chatting away. And we were like, when I say book launch, it was like hundreds of people there. We blagged a big, nice hotel in London. We had like press, we had some Z-list celebrities kind of thing. And I was like, faced with this, I'm going to have to do a talk. And it took me 12 weeks of coaching. And then, do you know what you'd probably give me some coaching on this, although I think I'm over it. She was like, right, stand up and talk and read the script. And I couldn't stand up in front of just my speaking coach. It was like there was this block. She's like, right, try this. And then she got one of those stools, high stools, and said, just like sit on it, but sort of half stand. And then I could read it. I'm fucking mental in the head. Like, this is strange. And then I did 12 weeks of coaching, literally just to be able to do like a 3-minute talk. Is that mental, Harry? Come on, tell me, am I mental in the head?
Well, of course, that's all of these self-imposed limitations are all mental. Like they're all weird, they're all mental, but for the individual, they're all real, and that's the problem. Like half of the problem, I just go as far as saying 75% of the problem is not the problem. It's the perceived problem itself. It's the way you relate to the problem, right? Similarly to you, right? I went to an event recently, and I was in the audience, right? I wasn't running the event, and I like to kind of, when I go to these events, I want to be able to talk and ask a question, but I get this block. I can't do it. Similarly to you, it's like, okay, now they're going to come around and give you the microphone in front of 100 people and give you the microphone, and then I'm going to have to stand up and ask my question. But if it was me on the stage, now I'm completely fine. And that's a weird shift for me. But for me, it's very real. Now, the difference in what I was talking about here is like, if you are sitting here judging yourself about the way that you feel with regards to a fear or an emotion, then that's going to be the heavier thing and the harder thing to overcome. Because then you're residing in the emotions of like shame or guilt or whatever else it is.
When I don't know if you can tell us, but when you quoted for the 2.5 days, what's your charges? I wanted to hire you for 2.5 days for my company. What would I pay?
I don't really do. No, I mean, I'm happy to share a price, but it's just arbitrary for me, because the reality is that I want to know who's in your company. I want to know how many people I'm speaking to. I want to know, is it the C-suite or the wider workforce?
So what's the most I would pay? Top whack for 2 days.
For 2 full days? Well, Well, I have charged $12,500 for 2 days.
Which for English people is about 800, 900. Sorry, 9,000.
Yeah, yeah, just under $10,000 pounds.
All right, we've got to get into what did you charge for PT when you started?
30 quid, 40 quid, something like that.
How does someone do that? How does someone on a scale of 7 years, someone's watching this and they're in the gym, like, tell us all this, not all the steps, but tell us the major steps.
Realize your worth, number one. But that's not enough, because you can realize your worth but still not believe in your product or service. And then you got to create a really fucking good service or a really good product, whatever you're offering. And then I would say you would have to get to a place where you have done the work of what you're teaching, or the transformation of what you're teaching, because you know the value then. So for me, charging however much I charge for individual, I do talks for free, by the way, as well. So it's not just like any of my time is worth this much. No, it's not, right? I'm on this podcast for free, unless you want to give me a little bit of commission afterwards.
Unless I charge you. Isn't that a gig sometimes people do? They're like, come on.
I think so. I think so.
You have to pay me $5,000.
Yeah, shithousery. But yeah, you gotta do the work yourself, right? If you want to go from being, or just realize the actual impact of perhaps what your life was like before you had a physical or mental transformation, and then realize what it's like now, and like how much is that worth to you? And then you have to be able to portray that in sales and marketing, because that's one of the biggest problems in PTs and coaching, is that they could be a very good coach, but they don't know how to sell themselves. And as soon as I joined your mentorship, and then I started learning about sales, then I started like immersing myself in sales, marketing, and psychology, I started realizing that sales was not what I thought it was. It wasn't about like this kind of Wolf of Wall Street style selling. It was like, no, you just like, I'm actually a very good salesperson because I'm a really empathetic listener. I know when to talk and when not to talk. I'm relatively self-aware, although I remember a quote you did tell me once, which you said, when you think you're self-aware, you're not. And that's always stuck with me.
Teal Swan says, when you think that you're God consciousness, you're actually now Lucifer consciousness. And I'm listening to her stuff and I'm like, I haven't got a clue what you fucking mean. But at the same time, I kind of do as well.
Yeah.
Ryan said that to me once. He was like, oh, I've done all the work. And I was like,
Yeah.
in my back of my, obviously as a coach, you wouldn't do it. You don't judge people for what they say, but you're just like, okay, this is interesting. He's like, I've done all the work. I don't need to do anymore. I'm really self-aware. And I was like, oh my.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going forward, because sales.
Yeah. Sales, man. Like, sales comes from a place of self-belief. I think that you've got to cultivate a sense of self-confidence. And that's not like, for me, that was always my block, was like, let's say, external or social confidence, or being confident in a environment. I personally felt as though I had a lot of self-belief, but not in my ability, self-belief in my potential, let's say. Like I knew, I had this like innate feeling and knowing that I was going to be successful in whatever I did, because I know how hard I work. I know how like ambitious I am. And I just like, there was just this sense of knowing, but I didn't have that same self-belief or self-confidence in my actual ability. I didn't realize it. So that for me was the work. Now you've got to find what your own work is, because your weakness is their way out. If you can't sit on a call and say, my services are £5,000 for 6 weeks of coaching, and shut the fuck up, then your weakness, the fact that you can't sit there and feel that, is the way that they're going to get past not paying you.
Do you remember I reviewed one of your sales calls? Can you remember?
I remember every
Was I brutal?
moment. Huh?
Was I brutal?
Brutal, absolutely brutal.
I actually
But what-
distinctly remember doing it. I remember listening to it, and I'm kind of hopefully better at now judging. With you, it was fine. You're big enough, ugly enough. But sometimes I'm like, I'm just having fun listening to this stuff and writing my notes. And I did one the other day for this guy, and I wasn't necessarily planning to share the notes with him. And I was like, "Shut up! Stop coaching him! Stop coaching him!" And then, by the way, I was doing my treadmill, walking uphill. So I was just putting little notes while I was listening to it, and it was a triage call. I was like, "Stop coaching him, stop coaching." And then I was just narrating what was going on in my head by writing it down. I think I wrote "stop coaching him" like 7 times. And I was like, "He better not do this." And then he did it. And I was like, and then I did the presentation back to him, and I was kind of just having fun with it. But I'm like, I hope I'm not making him feel bad here. That's not the energy. And I was like, "Do you want to see my notes?" And he's like, "Okay." And I showed him, and it was like, "Stop coaching him" for like half a page. And I was like, "What are you going to do? Fucking stop coaching him."
Yeah.
And I actually, and I remember distinctly reviewing one of yours, but I can't remember what advice we got out of it. Can you remember? I mean, maybe even just say like, because I, by the way, the reason I'm pausing here with the sales is because I actually really agree with you. Russell Brunson says the first 100K is sales. And I think a lot of people want the first 100K to be marketing. But for most people, it's much harder. People can argue with me about this, but generally speaking, I think it's much harder to get good at marketing than it is at sales. And you can move the needle a lot quicker with sales. Now, for the long term, you have to get good at marketing. You don't want to just rely on sales. But I think a lot of the work that you improved on was all of this stuff. Like at the beginning, being able to actually charge, ask for decent money. Can you remember some of the advice that you got from that review, or just generally around that time?
Right, yeah, for sure. Like around that time, I was like, for me, you could sense my energy on or pre-sales call. And I think one of the things you said to me on one of these calls was like relax yourself. Like you're anxious, or you're doing stuff, you're maybe like moving things, or you're like looking around, like just relax, like calm yourself down. Like, because for me, my heart was always elevated. And then I learned to relax a little bit. And then I learned to just like own what I was saying. And this wasn't just true in sales schools, but like people have heard the quote, I imagine, "How you do anything is how you do everything," right? I learned, and part of what you taught me in that process was owning what you say. Like own it, say it and own it. Don't say it. Like similarly to what I said about your weakness is their way out, is like say the thing and then don't say anything else. Don't justify why you're saying the thing. Say it and just shut up. Whether it's to do with the price, of course, that's probably the most important thing, where you need to not say anything afterwards. But secondly, about if you're calling them out. Thirdly, if you're asking them a question, don't ask them a question and then go on to explain the question. It's like, say the thing and own it. And I started doing this in my entire life. And then I started doing it in sales. And I found that when I started doing these little, I'm bigging you up big time here, but here's another quote that you taught me from that time: is sales is balanced on the head of a pin, right? So it's nuanced little tiny tweaks. It's like I play a lot of golf, right? And when you're playing golf, you move your hand like 1 millimeter round on the club, or you open the face 1 millimeter, and the shot's going to be completely different. This is the same thing in conversations, in sales, in life, to be honest. Like, it's nuanced. These things are picked up consciously and unconsciously.
Yeah, I find it really interesting. I'm going to keep going with this, like the journey. But do you find that this, because your clients must be not used to people actually challenging them like this? I think that everyone wants the CEO clients. Everyone shits themselves when they get the CEO clients. And it's not even when they get in them, it's when the CEO asks to have a conversation. Do you remember Owen? Obviously, do you remember Owen? I
Rings a
wouldn't.
bell.
Anyway, he worked for us, and then he was a client originally, and he's like, he just turned up on a call one day and he was shitting himself. He was like, and that's kind of laughing, joking in my head, but also understand. He's like, I don't know what to do. He's like one of the richest men in Dublin. I was like, okay. Yeah, I don't know. He was all panicking. I was like, well, what would
Yeah.
you normally do? And he's like, well, get him on a call. I was like, might get him on a call then. He's like, yeah, but then what? I was like, well, what would you normally do? And I know why he's doing it, because he's scared. Like, and I think that it's a bit like when you're a handsome man, so you probably don't quite have the same challenges as mere mortals. But when you approach a very, very attractive someone that you're very attracted to, compared to someone that you might not, you behave differently.
For
Like
sure.
that's the difference. And with Owen, the situation is the same. It's just the way he behaved, because this guy, his perception of this guy was that this guy's in a hierarchy much higher than him, which is probably true as well. Clearly, the guy's a CEO. And I was kind of just, so he was getting what he wanted pretty quickly, and then he started shitting himself, and he hadn't even got to the sales call. That must have taken a lot of courage to be able to coach those kind of people, especially with what you say, like to challenge. They're not always used to it, right? Or they are.
They're not used to it. But they want it, right? They that's why they're seeking coaching. They need it and they want it and they know they want it, but sometimes they might not always like it. And that's the thing you have to be comfortable with. It's like this was actually it reminded me of the advice that you gave me on the sales call as well, which was or not in the sales call, but in general, which was about not putting these people on a pedestal, because that's what I kept doing. I was like, oh yeah, I've got this really famous client, like, and yeah, she was pretty famous, but so what? Like that just made me more scared, and then I performed worse in sessions. So it's like, well, stop putting them on a pedestal and see them as a normal person, because that's what they are. And yeah, man, I think that's being comfortable with calling someone out is probably the most beneficial behavior you can practice on a sales call or on a coaching call.
But it's hard, right?
But it is hard.
Yeah. I mean, some of the best coaches I know were the people that hit it. And I think for anyone watching, like the way I might look at it is, if they don't trust you or they don't feel listened to, and you start calling them out, they'll just think you're an idiot. They'll just be like, who the fuck is this idiot?
Yeah.
Whereas when they know that you've listened and you understand them and you've got their back, and I suspect even with these very high performing guys, it's like an athlete, like a footballer. Like they still need to know that Alex Ferguson has their back. Like Alex Ferguson is on their team. Jose Mourinho is like, they know that he gives a shit. And then at that point, they'll run through fucking brick walls for you. Like you can bring the force. And I think the real good coaches and salespeople are the people that can do both. They help the person feel understood and create space.
Yes.
And then at that point, they know when to be able to just go, this is not good enough. This is bullshit.
Well, the thing is the best coaches are the ones that have already set up the foundations,
Yeah.
or let's say the energetic environment for them to be able to challenge them. It's like, if anyone else was doing the challenge, it probably wouldn't be accepted. It wouldn't be received well. But because because the best coaches actually know how to set up the right environment through language, through energy, through whatever else comes to mind, physical environment, whatever, you're able to say the thing that is going to be hard for them to listen to, but they're going to thank you for it in a week's time. They might not thank you for it though.
Down on you or anything like that. Has that ever happened?
I
I'm showing my age, by the way, when I say put the phone down. You're not literally on Zoom. Has anyone ever like thrown a strop?
Yes.
Did they come back?
I've had a full-blown argument with a client before.
Did they come back?
Yeah, they came back with their tail between their legs, and yeah, I've had a full-blown argument, because not that I was like fighting back, but I was kind of holding my corner a little bit. It wasn't like shouting at each other. It was not an argument like that. It was a disagreement, and it all came from. I'll tell you how it came. This person was coming onto the call in a real victim mentality, and I allow people to feel their emotions and accept them. That's part of coaching, right? Just like learn to be okay with however you feel, whether that's good or bad, negative, positive, whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to judge anyone for that. What I always do when we get onto a call is we go through a few good things that have happened. That's why I said to you, like, what's been good? Like that's my way of asking, how are you? Like, what's been good? And if they start telling me about bad things and negative things, I stop them. I'll be like, we'll get onto that in a bit, but just tell me what's actually been good. And this person, they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't tell me because they were so happy in their little bubble of negativity and victim that they didn't want to break out of it. So they fought against telling me anything. I said, even the smallest thing, even the tiniest little thing. Did you get out of bed today? Did you brush your teeth? Did you have a glass of water? Just give me anything that isn't negative, and they wouldn't do it. And they started getting really annoyed. And I was like, I'm going to hold you to this because it's not that difficult. And I know it's going to help you. And then we can get onto the stuff you actually want to tell me. So yeah, that was, and then.
Do you find coaching men and women different?
Yes, massively.
A lot.
I think it's a very different skill, because I think got to be careful what you say here.
You don't.
Look, like I know this from experience, right? Like the majority of my clients were men, and then I started coaching women, and I was coaching them in the same way at the start. And I realized actually, like, I knew this before, but I didn't realize it was so true in coaching. Like, they speak a different language. Most people know that most women are much more, generally, of course, this isn't true for every individual, much more in touch
We're going to have
with.
loads of caveats in the next 3 minutes, aren't we?
So many, yeah.
Like,
more in touch with their emotions, right? They're more able to feel the things. So you as a coach need to allow them to live in that space, but show them that there's another perspective. There's another way of looking at this, or there's the other end of the scale, which is the more, let's say, masculine way of dealing with things. It's like, okay, I understand that this is what's happening, and we're going to work through that. And once we have worked through that, then we're going to go on to what are the actions that need to be taken. But if you go straight in with that, there's gonna be turmoil, right? It's also about individuals. I don't necessarily think it's always about men and women. It's also about individuals. It's like I might have a male client who has much more, who resides more in the feminine energy, right? I was probably a guy that fluctuated between the two, and probably needed to work on the more masculine, energetic side of myself when I was in sales calls or in coaching, because I was too in the feminine. But in social situations, possibly too much in the feminine, not enough in the masculine. So I was kind of like floating between the two. So it's also to do with individuals, not just men and women, I think.
Ali said to me once, and this really, I don't know why it quite made such a profound effect in that moment. She said to me, she's like, a man will never know what it's like to be some people disagree with this. There's those new type of women, you know, the new ones that Ricky Gervais talks about, but the old ones, she's like, a man would never know what it is to be a woman in the world. They will never know what it feels like to be a woman in the world. And I was really like, and then we got on a conversation. It's like, throughout human history, what the experience of being a female would have been very different to the experience of being a male. Just sheer the risk that women are at if they aren't through history surrounded by men, i.e. men to protect, right? So then I was like, I found it really interesting. I'm like, that doesn't just go away. That's passed down for sure. So the reason she's saying it is because there's a default of more, maybe being more, not reactive to fear, but being more is a settled sort of base to start on is more of a fear response. I was like, that for me was really interesting when she said, like, I never thought about it like that. I was like, yes, she's right. Like, as an example, I don't walk down the street worried. Whereas if you're a woman at night, you're probably going to be aware of what's going on around you. That's probably a good thing as well, by the way. But I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, in certain areas I might, but it wouldn't be a default. And I found that really interesting because then I think personally coaching men and women is the biggest difference. You're right, everyone's an individual, but that is the biggest difference you'll have. If you compared it to age, if you compared it to anything else, I think it's there's lots of crossover clearly, but I think it is fundamental. I think this is why I say to people, to be a really good coach, it's harder to coach both at the beginning. Focus on coaching one. And marketing as well, you could argue that it's very hard to coach, to market to men and women at the same time. It's not impossible, but it's more difficult. But first, coach one, market to one, and then as you get better, start coaching the other sex. And then I think it's also an interesting learning curve. I think at that point you realize the differences. Like what you're saying, like for me, it's like men tend to go to fix more.
Yes.
And our job sometimes as coaches is actually to stop that. Like it's not just straight away, right, let's fix. It's like, no, let's not just go to fix. Let's sit into some of this feeling and emotion, at least start to try and identify what it is. Like do it with me, not out in the world. And then maybe go to fix. Whereas I think for our temperament can be as men, because of what I said, is that we tend to want to fix, like in relationships, like you try and fix things and they're just like, this isn't the fix one. Like, just no, I just want you to listen. And it's like,
you've just like labeled 99.9% of my girlfriend and I's arguments. So there we go. Stop trying to fix it.
I find funny, Ben Shapiro, do you know who Ben Shapiro is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was on a little podcast and he's like, me and my wife got to this good place where she comes to me and she says her problems. She's saying all of her problems. And in the old days, I would just do what I do, which is try and fix it. And now I just say to her, wifey, is this the fix one or the listening one?
That's great.
And he asks her, and then she tells him, and I'm like, he's like, now that's really helped our relationship. And I was sitting there, I was like, no, what people really want is for you to know.
Yes.
Not ask. Because that just like sinks someone's heart. It's like, you just need to learn to know. And then to be a man who can figure that out is actually quite challenging. Most men are terrible at it because we just don't think that it's a need. And then it's like you start to learn, is this the fix one or is this the listen one? And if you can get that right, you're in a good place. And I do think that some of this comes across in coaching men and women as well.
Yeah. But I think that this is where what I love to like study, and this is where I geek out a little bit. It's like, why is that women actually don't want you to ask? From what's ringing true to me right now when I'm listening to you saying that is like, that's still basically fixing. Even if you're asking, is this a fixed one or is it not? You're basically trying to get the situation over and done with. Okay, what's the best way to do this? Your mind is in like. I would also
say it's also an intellectualization of what's really going on.
Exactly.
Because actually, we will bring it into our minds and try and fix it in the realms of. This is what someone would say to me, in the realms of the real world, and actually what someone's experiencing is in the realms of the spiritual world, where like sometimes it's not even, I don't even know why, or the person doesn't even know why. So I would also add that in there.
Yeah, it doesn't, like from the woman's perspective, it means, well, okay, if he just wants to ask me what the best option is, then it means he doesn't care. There's lack of empathy.
Or I have to do it.
Yeah, I've got to do all the work now. Like, yeah.
Where's your missus from?
She's Spanish and Moroccan.
Yeah, there you go, man.
So yeah, you can imagine there's fire.
I know. Okay, so interested in the coaching, the sales. Do Doing the work yourself, I agree with.
Yeah.
What else? What else? Couple
Well,
more.
I touched on this kind of story right at the start, which was about the identity ceiling. This kind of relates to the work, let's say, the self-belief, but also the reason why I took on a business partner and we're now running Mindset X together. The reason was that I have done, and am doing, and will continue to do the work on myself, realizing who I am, realizing my strengths, understanding where I thrive and where I don't, looking at my limitations, discovering the limitations that I didn't yet discover, whatever else, right? I have got to a place where I really do know the parts where I thrive and where I don't, and my strengths. One of those things is that I'm very good at creating the vision. I'm a big picture thinker. And I will set these goals. I will create this amazing vision and I will have this credible idea in my mind. And I'll go tell my girlfriend and I'll be really excited about it. And then I'll start doing the work. And then I'll start like putting in the systems and I'll create the frameworks. And I'll be like relentlessly taking action. So I was like, okay, creating the vision, taking the actions, no matter what was happening, moving past the fear. But here was my limitation, which was I couldn't hold a vision. I could not hold my own vision. No matter how much it meant to me, no matter how much I wanted it, no matter how ambitious or hardworking I was, I couldn't hold it.
What does hold a vision mean?
I see it as maintaining groundedness, if that's even a word, maintaining presence and groundedness with your goals and putting in the daily steps without seeing results. Now, I'm very good at that in certain areas of, no, I'm not. I'm not so good at that. I'm not so good at that. So that's a lie. So what I realized is like, okay, I need that. Maybe this comes from that insecure element of myself, which was I need to see the results quickly, or I need to see the results at some point in order to keep going. And if I don't see the results, there's going to be a day where I'm like, you know what? Let's change it. Let's set a new goal. Let's go
Is
a
that
different.
distraction or is it self-doubt, do you think?
I think that's self-doubt for me. And this was when I realized I'm someone who doubts themselves. If there's have 7 days in a week, I'll doubt myself one full day. If you're going to put arbitrary numbers on it, right? One full day per week, I was in this crippling self-doubt. That is not conducive to creating a successful business. Now, I was doing very well with my business, but there was a ceiling. I was like, okay, well, I've got two choices. I keep like, what do I do? Like, just keep scaling and growing and in the trajectory that I'm growing, which was nice. It was good, but it's not what I want. I want massive. I want huge. I want this huge company, and I want to make huge impact on society. I want to do amazing things. I don't just want to do good things. And I felt as though the person I am, I need someone with me who's got exactly the same as me, half and half, in order to take this to where it needs to be. And I did it
And
for
how do you
6.
select that person then?
It came about completely naturally. And that was, I think, the beauty of the energy that I was in was like, I didn't know that I needed someone before that. That's the point. I met this guy and I was like, shit, I feel like he needs to be my business partner. I feel like there's something that we need to do together. And then I started like really looking into that. And then I was like, okay, you know what? I think this is the right decision. And it's been the
I
best
had a
decision.
conversation with Ryan. You know Ryan Harrington?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Ryan, and I think it was with Ryan. I've done quite a lot of these, but I think it was. Um, and we had an interesting conversation because, like, he was saying that I didn't need another me in the sense of someone who does the same things that I'm good at. And we were having a conversation, and I think he pointed out that we are people, as humans tend to be attracted to people like them. Like as mates, we probably get attracted to people that are like us because we like, what I can't remember the Greek or Roman story, but we like, it's Narcissus, right? We like, that's the story, right? Of, I think it is anyway, or someone. No, it's not a Narcissus, it's one of the others where we like our own reflection.
Yeah.
Anyway, you'll remember it, or I'll remember. And then he's like, that's almost the worst place to get into a business relationship because you're seeking someone that you like, or the way that you would seek friendship, because it happens organically. And actually, that's the exact opposite to what we should do. We should be able to sit back and go, these are things that we're really good at. I almost want the opposite. I want the opposite to this skill set. And that's where like we get real good synergy. And I was talking to Ryan about this, and I was interested because I think that the best business relationship that I had, it came around organically. And I'd actually generally, even to this day, are like, I tend to tell people, not where you are now, Harry, but I tend to tell people avoid partnerships, because I think at first it's often just the crutch that someone tries it because actually they need to just do more internal work themselves, but they get to a place of understanding where it's like, this is really sensible. And I just think we lucked out. I lucked out. Like it wasn't thought through. It just happened to be that I found myself in a situation with someone where we kind of had a similar sort of idea of like, we want to grow something. And that relationship lasted quite successfully, quite a long time. But again, I think it was more luck than judgment. And I think from my experience, most of the time partnerships don't work.
Yes, I completely agree. I know more partnerships that have not worked than have. And it's weird. Like, I always ask my clients when we set goals, like, why do you want what you want? And I ask myself, why do I want the things I want? When I bought my car last year, I was like, why do I want the new car? Why do I want the things that I want? And if you can really answer that with complete honesty, then probably you're going to know whether it's the right decision or not. Because for me, I'd realized that if I was to get a business partner when I first started, I was probably telling you when we first did our mentorship that I want a business partner. Why? Because I was insecure. Because I didn't believe in myself that I could take this business to where I needed to go. Because I needed reassurance in my own message. So that being said, it's probably the wrong decision, because you actually, like you said, you just need to do the work, right? And then you can decide whether you want a business partner, because it will help you. So where I'm at now is like, I've run my business on my own for 6 or 7 years. 8 years. 8 years. And I'm at a place now where I'm like, I want a business partner, because I know that I can be successful in doing what I'm doing. Comfortable 6 figures. I could take this slowly up in a nice trajectory to 500,000, maybe. Let's see. But what I know I can do with a business partner is, firstly, we can go as big as we possibly want. And I know this is true because we were setting out the intentions of what we want bigger in the bigger vision or longer term. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if we, like in the 5-year vision, we had creating a facility, like a mindset coaching facility. Now, I don't mind sharing this because people can copy it or whatever. It's not exactly a new idea, right? It's just whatever, a random goal. But it's like, okay, we could have a mindset coaching facility with like seminar room and a lecture room and a like a boutique fitness space and a garden for meditation and all this stuff, like as a facility for self-development. And then he goes, you know what? Why don't we create a village? Why don't we create a village?
You're sounding like Phil now.
Huh?
You're sounding like Phil now.
Oh, really?
Phil wanted an island, not just a village, though.
But this is I think that this is the power. And whether the relationship's going to work out, I believe it will, but who knows, right? You don't know what's going to happen. All I know is that right now it is serving every part of my performance because I've not had a single day in like 3 months of doubting myself. Not a single day of thinking, are you sure you can do this? Or are you really on the right path? Are you doing what you're set out to do? Haven't had a single day where I've asked myself those questions that have come with doubt. And
Where
that's
is this place?
powerful.
By the way, where is this place? Where is it located?
Who knows?
Roughly, do you have any idea?
What, as in the facility?
Country, location, continent? Yeah.
Oh, for sure. It will be somewhere. It will be, I mean, look, Dubai is a great place for this type of stuff. There's lots of wellness facilities, but I would love to have it in somewhere like Europe, like Spain, Portugal, or somewhere like that, because it's more of a retreat kind of facility. But who knows? It's in the vision, let's say.
Right, give me one more on the steps to doing what you're doing now.
In terms of what? In terms of how I got to where I am, or what?
Yeah, yeah.
I think one of the biggest things that I recognized is like our or the philosophy of Mindset X is like your inner world will always dictate your outer, right? So you can work super hard on the stuff that we've spoken about today, the sales, the marketing, the business systems, the frameworks, whatever. But if your inner environment isn't aligned with those things, with the vision, with the goals, you're always going to be swimming against the tide. If something doesn't feel good, kind of relates to the business partner decisions that we've spoken about, right? If something doesn't feel good, learn to like be present with that and understand that. Many people, coaches especially, and that's quite worrying in my opinion, don't understand their own emotions, no matter what you're coaching. Because if you're somewhat self-developed, I hate that, is a horrible phrase to say, but if you've done any type of work, you'll realize that any goal, whether it's business, health, relationships, life, spirituality, whatever, any goal that you set, your emotions play a very big part in that. Your mindset plays a very big part in that. So if your mind and your body are not aligned, if you're not internally ready to achieve what you want, you're going to be, it's going to be very difficult. Okay. So part of the whole process for me was understanding who I am and what was holding me back internally.
How does someone do that? I agree with you, by the way, but I think it's a foreign concept, first of all. So we I remember Ali's, I'm not going to give her name, but like a 7-year-old, they had this thing called a feelings book, and it was like getting the child to point at the feelings that they're feeling in that moment to actually help them start to recognize what they are feeling, because most people are disembodied.
Yes.
And it's obviously very like happy, sad. It's not, there's no more nuance than that. And then I remember like sometimes like it's feeling those feelings and being okay with those, like you said earlier on, being okay. So sometimes Ali would get young child, which is like, I really want to swear. Like this is an 8-year-old that's realizing you can't swear. It's like, because I'm really, I'm pointing at going, I'm really angry and I want to swear. And in that moment, Ali was like, okay, let's go upstairs and you can do it. You can have a window for 2 minutes and you can say, and then went upstairs and just heard this shouting from a little child of like lots of F words, punching pillows. And I was like, that's so distinct from what most people's experience, especially young girls, is as a child. Because it's like you're not allowed to be angry, unacceptable emotion, and clearly you're not allowed to use F-bombs. Whereas what was happening in that situation is helping that child recognize the feelings that are there internally and accepting them and being okay. Because some people would say, like, if you don't, they'll just they'll get internalized, and then that's where problems potentially come from in later life. And there's even versions you can get for adults as well, like a feelings chart. And I think most people they don't actually know what they feel. Like, what is it? A feelings and unlabeled emotion. They actually don't know what. Have you listened to any of Johnny Wilkinson's stuff recently?
No. In terms of podcasts?
Yeah.
No, but he was on my friend's podcast actually.
Have you listened to the stuff he talks about?
No, but I know I've listened to some of his stuff, man. He's incredible. My friend said it was the best conversation he's ever had.
Who's your friend?
Louis Blake. He's building a hotel in the UK, and he's also running a podcast. I think it's called the Human Nature Podcast.
I'm going to check it out. Like, I just randomly found one day. And I was like, oh, love Johnny Wilkinson, hero, scored the drop goal. And it's like, listen to it. I was like, what the hell? Where's this all come from?
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
He was like this when he was playing.
I did not know that. I thought it was just like the depth of spirituality and knowledge and stuff he's sharing. I'm like, this is crazy. The guys that are interviewing can't get their heads around it, because I think they thought they were just going to interview him about like drop goals and shit. And he starts saying all this stuff, and you can see, they don't quite get it. You can see, but they're really curious.
Yeah. So how has this stuff like impacted you, would you say, like in your life and your business? Like this depth of learning and this deeper way of looking at life, because I knew that for me there was something there, but I didn't really understand it until only a few years ago.
What's the Jung quote? Till you make the conscious unconscious, it will run your life, and you call it fate. A lot of it came out on sales calls, first of all, which is I would feel a certain way on sales calls in certain situations. So someone would say, do this thing, use this technique, and I would do it, and it would make me feel something. Obviously, when you're selling, you're not sitting there going, well, pause, mister. Did I sell you in, or did someone else?
You did.
I did, didn't I? Yeah, I think I remember. It's like, I'm not going, by the way, Harry, just pause because I want to feel what I'm feeling. So you have to do the work afterwards. But it's like, I would learn the techniques of how to sell, and I would realize that on the call, it actually made me feel a certain way, i.e., shut the fuck up and don't say anything. And it would just be chomping me up inside. But at the same time, I got quite good at it quite quickly. So I was like, I sold things very expensive. I realized there was this mechanism that you could be on a call for an hour and sell a £20,000 program. I was like, yeah, I like that. This is good. I like feedback, quick feedback as well. So then I wanted more of that. Obviously I wanted the money, but also eventually it translated into coaching. It wasn't there straight away. It was more in the sales. And I was like, I knew some of the advice. I learned some of the path to get better at sales, but it would make me feel a certain way. So I could label it now and say uncomfortable, but that doesn't, it's not really a feeling as such.
Yeah.
So for instance, one of the things I would do is learn to shut up. Most salespeople know that, but doing it is very hard. I had a little game in my head that I was playing one time, and I was like, right, I was going on a few dates, and I was like, I feel uncomfortable sitting in silence with people. But that's interesting. Now, I did delve a little bit more with what the uncomfort was. I was like, hold silence more. And I'd do it, and it would just feel really difficult. And it's hard to explain in that moment. And you do it for like 2 seconds, 3 seconds. And I'd be like, because I used to be quite nervous at the beginning, I'd sit there, and I remember I sit down, and the first thing that I would do is pick the menu up. What do you want to drink? It's like, why am I doing that? Well, I'm doing it because my brain says because you're going to order a drink. But then I realized, no, I'm doing it because I'm uncomfortable in silence and tension. But I read at the same time that, by the way, silence and tension is really good to create bonding, rapid bonding. So it's like, right, I need to just sit there and not say anything, only for like 5 seconds. So the first moment you sit down, and then nothing is said for like just small amounts but it just builds a little bit of like intrigue and tension. But I was like, oh my God, this is really difficult. So then I played this game eventually with me. I'm like, I'm going to sit there on a date and not say anything to someone for 60 seconds. And I got to about 5, and I was like, oh, this is weird. I can't do this. And then eventually randomly one day I was just on a lunch coffee date with someone I just met, and we're just like getting on quite well. It was really good vibe, to be honest. And she held tension very well. So it wasn't like I was just sitting there chatting to her and then 60 seconds of just stare and this is weird. And it just built up to it. And it maybe like 10 seconds at one point, and then we're just chatting away. And then I remember just sitting there, we're just looking at each other, and we didn't say anything for like 60 seconds, just sitting there in the sun in Malta, just staring at each other. Not like weird staring, just obviously it's quite deep connection. And then eventually she was like, "You're quite good at this, aren't you?" I just started cracking up. We just had a big laugh. It was like that is a microcosm of like, why do I feel uncomfortable with this level of connection with someone? Like eye contact, I was not great at it. Do I need eye contact on a sales call? Well, I can't do both at the same time. I can't look in you and then look at the screen. So it's not quite as important on sales calls like this, but I was like, I feel uncomfortable in these situations. And I liked making money and I wanted to make more money. And then I just got really curious. So figuring out like what's the underlying internal feeling that comes up when you are sitting in silence. For most people, it's very in coaching. Like when you're doing person coaching, you have to be so connected to the person when they're saying stuff to you. If your eyes disconnect in even just a small amount, when someone's saying something really profound to you, that subconsciously will tell the other person that this isn't okay for them to say what they're saying.
Yes.
Remember one time me and Phil did a retreat and we were working with this guy and we knew a lot of stuff that had happened and it was quite bad. Like it wasn't, you don't know who he is, so I can say like his mum was not nice to say the least. And I asked him a question and it was in front of everyone and I was like, tell us what's the worst thing that ever happened, like the worst thing that you can remember. And he started telling me, and this was hard to contain. Like that was profound. It was difficult because what he was telling me was horrible. Like the emotion that he's feeling at that moment, it's coming into me. The temptation in that moment is my eyes to just look that way ever so slightly to break that tension. But I also know as a coach, if you do that, subconsciously they're told to stop, that the other person doesn't feel safe for you to say this. And so after that happened, I was like, Phil, I'm just going to go for a little break. And he's like, yeah, that's cool. And I didn't start crying. I just went off into the toilet for like 20 minutes. And it was just like this churn of emotions inside me. That's not good.
That's yeah, that's an alarm.
Which is that there's a bomb scare.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
What a moment for it, huh?
So you asked me how does that affect it? I think most people are disembodied. They've got no clue how these situations make them feel because they've just got no way of knowing it. And I think we're lots of stored emotions. Yeah. And I think if we can just recognize what they are, like they tend to lose their power somewhat. And I think if you do some deeper work is where you actually get those stored emotions out, including men. And when you have that kind of release, like it literally you feel different. Like you feel different going into everyday life. I don't know if is that a sign that you have to shoot off?
No. I mean, what can we do? We just sit here and you've got to just kind of stay inside.
If you get blown up, this is like this. I feel bad.
Well, at least you got
what
it on camera.
What do you think when I say that? Like you asked the question, what do you think when I say that? Does it make sense?
When you were saying about not about the missiles, no?
No, not the missiles. Just generally, like you said, like what?
Yeah, man. It resonates with me like so much. You're like, it's exactly the sort of stuff that I started to become aware of. It's like, why do I default to this pattern? Why do I default to this behavior? When I'm in this situation, why does this happen? And there's a danger, which was what I believe happened to me, which was getting too caught up in the head and like, why? And then you become not present in the situation. But it's like, if you can become present in that moment and sit with it, and then analyze perhaps more intellectually and analytically afterwards, that's a really good formula for increasing self-awareness and becoming a really effective communicator and self-confident, because you're recognizing the internal patterns, the behaviors that you're displaying. And I noticed something that you said a minute ago, like when you were with this guy that was telling you something really deep. It's like when I tell people, for example, about that my mum passed away, like before I even finish, they say, I'm sorry to hear that, because they have to quickly get it in for me to know that they're sorry. It's like, chill, man. Like, I'm not sitting here crying in front of you saying, my mum's died. Like, it's cool, man. It's fine. It's okay. Like, let me talk. What that does is, I'm very aware of it, and it's not, for me, it's like, okay, I understand that people are just, they don't know how to talk about this stuff. But other people that are not aware of how that comes across subconsciously think, well, now I can't tell them how I feel, or now I can't express really how I want to express my emotions because they've cut me or they've interjected. They wanted to put their emotions in front of mine. That's what it subconsciously says to the other person. So that was something that came up when you were telling me that, and that's so it's a big communication issue. I think this podcast has been a lot about communication, which is really cool, because I think that's
what I find interesting is that the places where I think that I discovered the most personal growth were literally just going on lots of. Went to Malta. I was with my girlfriend at the time. We split up. She decided to go back to the UK. I didn't know anyone there, so I was just like, right, I'm just going to meet people. I'm going to go on lots of coffee dates, like just meet girls, but it was as much around a social thing as anything else. And so then lots of those moments are actually quite nervous situations for a lot of people. And it's like, now I'm really interested in like, how can I become better? Like, because I do have this tendency to want to get better at things. And I would say there was correlations between sales calls. And I would also say that they're both quite, if I say intimate situations, like that might seem strange, that why is a sales call intimate? Well, if you're good at sales, it becomes intimate because you learn skill sets that, and this doesn't need to weird people out, but you shut the fuck up and you listen to the person, you create space, and maybe they will say things to you that you didn't know they would. And maybe the way you act on that gives them permission to say things that they can say that they didn't know that they should in some ways.
Yes.
And that was similar in other situations, in like just meeting people, and like I just recognized I wasn't particularly good at it, or I was nervous at it. Like then it's like, okay, these are both quite intimate situations. I think these situations are gifts as well, because they help you uncover other things that are showing, like you said already, it's like shows up everywhere. These are just places that they're dialed up.
100%.
Like they're dialed up like 20 times, and then you're like, I would be scared to listen back to my first sales calls, and now I've had two people so far tell me about what it was like when we had a sales conversation. Ryan was funny. He was like, you told me the price, and I was just sitting there and I was just writing stuff on a paper, and it was the longest 10 minutes of my life. Like you just didn't say anything, and I was just cracking up, and I was like, yeah, no, it'd probably be about right. He's like, and then he explained, like he recognized that was just tension, and how with realization later that that's what he needed. And I think in these situations when people are like that, you know, you would have probably done it. I did it at the beginning, where you just start talking, telling them why it's worth the money.
Yeah.
Right, we are. I want to know what are you excited about going forward? Tell me about that.
I'm excited about creating massive impact. I think that the next year or 2 years for me in this industry of self-development and mindset specifically is going to be some massive changes, and I'm excited to do some bigger and greater things, but nothing too different to what I'm doing now, but on a bigger scale, talking to many more people in the audience, coaching many more clients in the group, and we've introduced the group model in the last few months. And yeah, man, just taking things to the next level. That? I'm getting used to it, but it's so different. Like
challenging,
so challenging, really challenging, but it's really good. And I think that as we grow that the people in that, the thing is, it's very different, I think, to coaching coaches. Maybe I'll get your perspective on this, but like I do feel as though coaching people in leadership or in business in a group is different to coaching coaches in that environment.
Go
Now,
on.
I don't know if this is perhaps where you're going to start coaching me now. This is a limiting belief of mine, but these coaches know what it's like to be coached or to coach, and I think they can sink into that environment much better. And they're used to, for example, being on a call and then someone else being coached in quite a deep way, and then that coming onto them, and then they're kind of being interrogated or coached. But when it comes to leaders and founders, some people do it really well, of course, but others they don't understand it and they have
They
to.
receive coaching really well, do you mean?
Coaches, yeah,
Okay.
but founders
Yeah.
and CEOs in that group environment, they're not so used to that. And a lot of the CEOs that come on and work with me, they don't want the group. So it's now like what I've done is I've just tripled my prices for one-to-one coaching and just focusing on the group and then one-to-one if people want to pay that price. But that's cool. Um, so yeah, that's where we're at. It's exciting.
I think if we have this conversation in 2 years, you might have changed your opinion on that.
Really
Yeah, I think so.
interesting.
I think it like when the best coach that I've ever met started coaching for us, I was like, Phil, this is weird. I don't know how this person knows this shit. Like, I don't get it. Where is this from? And then eventually we had to tell said person, stop unplugging these people like in week 2. You can't do that. Like, it's just your ability to just know what to say or ask the right questions, and someone just their mind just gets blown. Like, you've got to slow that down. For me, I remember saying to Phil, it took me fucking 7 years to get to a place where I half thought I was a decent online group coach. It's like, I think that's the time frame that it takes, and maybe not 7 years, but I think to get really, it's a different world.
Yeah.
It's a different world to coaching in one-to-one, and I think it takes a reasonable amount of time to do it.
Yes.
Of just knowing when to push, when not to, who you can kind of use as an example in some ways to have the other people sort of just deepen their consciousness a bit. It takes time. I was a terrible online group coach, but well, no, probably not terrible, but not anywhere
Yes.
near. So I suspect after 2 or 3 years of doing it, your perception would have been changed a bit. But I also do agree with you that there are certain people that will be stuck.
Yes.
But I think you can fix that with systems. I think you can fix that with targeting the right certain types of people in marketing, level of consciousness. And I think you can fix it on the sales calls as well.
Yes.
But I actually think that you'll think different in 2 years. I'm excited for you as well. I think
What are you
it's more
what are you excited about?
me. I'm excited about moving somewhere. Don't know where yet. We'll see. Dubai is about 5%, but I don't think I'll do it. I like, to be honest, I've loved doing these podcasts because I've just realized like I really love what I do. Like it's so much fun. Like I'd be able to coach people and do this stuff is like really, really interesting. It's fun. You make good money. So I've realized like just chatting to you guys, like how much like fun it has been and it is. So I'm good doing more. The other thing that I've found is, and this is interesting for you doing the other way, is now building something on your own. It brings a whole new level of challenges that you have to like I said, I think people mesh together.
Yes.
And then so when you're then not doing it with someone who it has the sort of equal and opposite skills, your challenge is now, I know the things that are missing or that other people brought to the table, and now my job is to actually work on that part of myself, which is difficult. Like it's difficult because I agree with you some of the things you said earlier. Now I'm like, I need to improve the parts of me that perhaps were, I wouldn't say I got lazy, but it's easy to get lazy when other people are doing the structure stuff. So working on that.
But I'm cautious just to open another can of worms. But would you say that there's a point or a limit to which you don't necessarily have to, let's say, improve your weaknesses or deficiencies, but focus more on your strengths? Or do you think that you need to balance it out a little bit more if you're a solo founder?
Yeah, it's interesting because like it's sort of similar. Taylor used to talk about like there's this thing in internet marketing, coaching, consulting, that you need to have done each of the things yourself first before you can get other people to do it. So you
Okay.
need to have sold at a certain, you need to, and he's just like, this is ridiculous thinking. Elon Musk doesn't know how to do 99% of everything that's in his business. He just hires the best people to do it. So I think that there's different schools of thought.
Yes.
Because of the trajectory most of us take in the sort of coaching, consulting space, we're always going to sort of, it's going to be quite grassroots anyway. Like we are going to grow that way. We're not going straight to this point. You could just decide, I'm going to start a coaching company and I'm going to employ a team of 20 people and I don't really know anything about it. But it's just not what normally happens. It's normally more organic. Um, it's not even about, whether it's better. So I could maybe go and decide, well, I want to go and find other people to create partnerships. It's more actually, I want to do it.
Mm.
Like I want to be able to challenge myself in those things. I'm not I'm a 6 out of 10 in that sort of structure. I used to be like a 1. I don't need to get more than an 8. I'm just curious about like the blocks that perhaps maybe are there about why I couldn't be more structured, because I know I'm also structured.
Yes. Yeah.
So
No, okay.
I agree with you. I think there's schools of thought. For me, it's just like it's more of an excitement and enjoyable thought of being able to like improve things that I've got limitations in.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that you can take whichever route that feels the most relevant to you. If you want to be someone who is if you're a solo founder and you're like, you know what, I'm really good at these things. So let's create the business that plays into that, right? You're a super confident speaker, you're a super good communicator. Let's create more of an in-person event-based or seminar or workshop-based uh, business, and let's lean into that. But let's also be good at, I don't know, like online marketing or whatever else it is that you're doing, or online sales calls, whatever. Right. So let's not neglect that, but let's make sure that the business thrives off the things that I am actually good at. Like that could be one approach, but it wouldn't be a case of like, okay, I'm not so great at these things. Let's just forget about them, because that, of course, is going to leave holes in your business, right? So I think you just got to find the approach that works for you and make sure it's not too drastic either way.
Harry, how can people find out about what you do?
Well, my name's pretty hard to spell, so I'll spell it out. Harri_Pereira on Instagram, Harri, not Y, Harri underscore Pereira, Pereira, and mindsetxcoaching.com.
Which is your favorite channel? Did you say, was that Insta?
Sorry, yeah, that was Instagram and then website. I mean, LinkedIn is the same, Harri Pereira. But yeah, I'm busy on
YouTube?
LinkedIn. Not, yeah, I do have YouTube. It's not a focus right now. To be honest, Instagram I'm leaning more into. I really want to put a lot of my focus on Instagram now. So I've built up to like 20,000 followers on LinkedIn. I'm kind of bored of that, but I'm still working on it and I'm still putting most
All
of my
of the
time.
flop.
It's become a bit tedious, LinkedIn, but of course it's actually where 95% of my revenue comes from. So I'm going to
Yeah,
keep
nice.
working on that for sure. So yeah.
Nice. All right, Harry, this has been fun. Thank you so much.
Awesome, man. Good to see you again.
All right, man.
Cheers, bro.